There are people in this world right now working hard to make it hard for people to go to hell. But are the people listening? Are the people humble? Or has their arrogance, has their worship of false idols and themselves and their own image of themselves before God, even if they call themselves Christians, are they truly going to get away from the things that they have done in this life? At the age of 43, after surviving many, many traumatic things in this life, after having to quit my own version of my own ministry, even if it wasn't orthodox, I still spoke against evil, and I was right about China. I was right about the solar flares. I was right about a lot of things. I don't know it all. There's a lot of things I don't know, but I do know that my life has meaning and purpose, and serving God is important. Because God does exist, and we are now living in the day and age of AI. Mark my words, these people, these humans that know not what they do, they will lay down and worship this beast system. Because this beast system has already started to reward them through their wicked deeds, through the algorithms, through the manipulation of words to get people to click on something, to be using fear and anger and wrath to pull in even religious people. To convince even religious people that you can go out and harm people, that you can go out and beat people up with the Bible, but not actually preach to them the actual scripture. What is being done right now is an abomination. While, by the way, they have destroyed nature, which God created for us. We were given here on this earth everything that we need. But we were born into bondage for a reason, because of this new world order system that's now coming upon the earth. And it is not of the Lord. And there are people out there that I have seen say that this new world order is of the Lord. How can it be? With all of the pornography, all of the hatred, all of the violence, all of the racism, the black supremacy, the other forms of supremacy. I'm against all these forms of racism, but when I look at the internet now, I see various forms of racism occurring at the same time that I know is not organic of the humans. It is of the devil. And so we must repent of this evil, of the devil trying to tempt us. Look at what these people are doing to you over here. Look at what they're doing. Sometimes events are even manufactured in this reality to cause hatred and to cause wars. But that's another story. And those documentaries have been made. And so the people, in my opinion, I said this a long time ago, God gave them a choice. As God in the post-2000s, after the day that led to these wars, he has been revealing and revealing and revealing and revealing many, many truths about this quote-unquote system, which some might call a simulation or a matrix. So our souls are animating these vessels, these physical bodies, for a reason. We were given a gift, an opportunity to prove ourselves in the flesh, to evolve beyond the flesh. And there are many that have taken this gift. There are many that have taken this information that has been delivered from the heavens, and they have spit in the face of not only Jesus, but those that have come after Jesus. And I will not be silent anymore, because they drove me into silence for multiple years, and they put in the fear of the devil into me. And so-called Muslim doctors that supposedly believe in God gave me harmful medications. And even though I have defended these people against the hate directed at them, that still isn't enough for these so-called godly men to see the light in me, the good in me. And so we live in a world where if you talk about spirit, if you talk about demonic oppression, if you talk about demonic attacks, and that you have an ability to understand what is happening to humanity, they will see you as mentally ill. Even if you explicitly state, I do not hear things that are not there. I do not see things that are not there. I sense them. And ever since I was a baby boy, I've been attacked, in some cases physically, punched in the head for no reason, again, by various ethnicities. And again, I'm of mixed race heritage with both parents at different times in their life tormenting me. So another time for my background. This is not that time. This is an introduction to what I'm saying. This is a brief introduction to some of my ideas. It is not an accident that we were born in the time in which we were born, in which the solar flares and the asteroids and other cosmic events to turn our world upside down, just like that. As it says in the Bible, the stars will fall from the heaven. What is that in reference to? The sky will blacken. The moon will no longer be lit. These things are happening. Although the sun is not darkening at present, but the sun is very active. Some speculate that we could actually go into a grand solar minimum. I have some of my doubts about that. I think that God is more powerful. I feel that, to reiterate, that some of the assumptions about the future of the sun are not known by man. What will be, but we don't really know, do we? But what we do know is the activity of the sun is erratic, it is powerful. And today's man-made technologies, which the devil works through, by the way, the internet, the social media, the TVs, the streaming video content, this is not godly content. Can you say that it is? Can you say that this content is godly? It's not an accident that we were born in this mass media mind control era in which the devil is able to access so many minds. The devil, or that which people would call demons, which some people believe are connected to the fallen angels. I believe that these spirits, entities, whatever you might choose to call them, have a lifespan that exceeds the human lifespan. So in other words, there are agendas that are being played upon humanity that are long-term agendas. So they had a plan a long time ago to put cell phones into the hands of nearly everybody by a certain point in time. And so they can manipulate people that are weak-minded, that are not truly serving God, through the frequencies that are coming through the cell phones. And so now we live in a day and age where many people are talking about the portals opening up between our world and others. Many people talk about this in aliens, in the conspiracy theory movement. I've been involved in it for many, many years. But are these people in the conspiracy theory movement? David Icke, who talks to channelers and claims to hear voices, who's now connected with Alex Jones, who helped bring us Donald Trump. And I'm not left or right, but people need to see that no man is the king. Only Jesus is a king. And I will bow to no man. And I do not think that humans should be thinking that they should bow to a man or kneeling at the football game. Only kneel to Christ and never use Christ as a weapon. So there's many hypocrisies that we need to call out. And I wrote a long blog about this. I don't have them all. But there's many, many ways, by the way, in which there are hypocrisies that people need to evolve beyond, in which they engage in certain things, which I do not, while saying other people are sinful. For example, it's believed that we should not talk to the dead. Isn't this the culture and society of graveyards, of tombstones, where people literally talk to the dead? Hey, Mom. Hey, Dad. Boy, I really miss you. Hey, Jack got an A on his homework the other day. Okay, wait, stop. Didn't it say don't talk to the dead? So hypocrisy. What are we doing here in this day and age, thinking that these things are okay and these things aren't? Are we going to be honest with ourselves or not? I'm not saying that we can't think nice thoughts to our grandparents. I think about my grandparents all the time, but I don't physically go to the grave. I don't physically talk to the corpse. Why? Because the spirit is not in the corpse. The spirit has moved on. There are other examples that I can give you. There are many times in which pastors and others talk about the sins of fornication, and then we see sometimes in the news pastors busted for child sex trafficking or illegal porn and things of that nature. And it's not just a few times. Now, this should not reflect, however, on Christians around the world, nor should the act of a few terrorists, by the way, reflect on all Muslims. So there are going to be people out there that seem to be in positions of power and influence, purporting to serve God, but they're not. Like Satan taking Jesus into the wilderness and saying, I will give you this, I will give you that, just lay down and serve me. I will tell you now that exact same thing, although these people are not Jesus, but they are becoming corrupted, so their souls are being taken by the evil one. And so Satan is going around throughout the internet saying, all you have to do is just get on board a narrative that these people are the enemy, that we need to harm these people and do this and do that, and I will give you riches. I will give you a YouTube channel that has 500,000 subscribers, 1 million subscribers, and there are people out there bearing false witness all the time saying that the internet is holding them back, that they're really struggling, that the liberals are kicking their ass, that they're really being suppressed by the algorithm when they're actually going viral. And so I see the devil using both the left and the right, no real angels on the other side of the political aisle. Let's move forward. And so as we see more hate towards blacks, as we see more unfortunate hate towards whites, also known as anti-white racism, what we are seeing is the devil using both of those movements to create a situation which as one grows, the other grows. As black supremacy rises, white supremacy rises. As white supremacy rises, black supremacy rises. And it seems right now in this present day and age that those two are being manipulated. And by the way, folks, this isn't just about pointing the finger at Satan. There are world governments here on the earth that are being used by Satan, such as China and Russia. And so some people think that what's going to be coming in the future is a good thing. It's good the U.S. is falling. Look at what they did. They did this, they did that. But yeah, that doesn't mean that it's right then for there to be this retaliation. Mark my words, this attitude is coming, this condemnation of America. And so it's not an accident that evil forces a long time ago, Freemasonic included, and you can go elsewhere to learn about that if you don't know what that is and how that has infiltrated our society. Pastors around the world need to know these things. I know things that many do not. I speak of things that no man speaks of. This is truth. I did not lie to you. I swear before the Creator, right now, before you. In Jesus' name, I am not lying to you. I am not claiming to be this great thing or something rather, but I am no fool. I was born with knowledge in this world that I did not absorb through any channeling practices or witchcraft or magic. I was just simply born with it. And so when the devil came to me at 8 and attacked me in a sleep paralysis, as they call it, they say, oh, it's no demonic thing. It's just in your mind. It's your body trying to astral travel. Bullshit. Bullshit. That's a lie. There was seriously an angry satanic devil saying to me, oh, now I found you. You thought you can hide from me? I've got you now. And here I am thinking I can hide in my mother's room, as if my mother had compassion for me. It says, honor your mother and father. However, when your parents are serving satanic doctrines and are harming others, and they choose not to turn towards the good, when they're informed of their actions, when they involve themselves in drugs, alcohol, pornography, and hanging around people that harm others, it's not good energy. And, there's a lot of discussion right now about mixed race humans. There's a lot of controversy about that, as one myself, which contributed to both families casting me out, exiling me. They never said that's why, but that's the real reason why. Because I am of a rare combination of genetics that's not normally seen. Okay, and make sure that people understand this. There are not people walking around that have my combination of genetics, where my father is from and mother. In the future, that may change, but it's actually very, very small. It's less than 1%. There is no real measurement. And it's greatly condemned in this culture for people of my father's culture to be having children with people of my mother's culture. And so that type of situation created adverse conditions in my childhood. Do you think that I wanted to be stamped with a foreign name and somewhat of a foreign face? To be raised in a white family that hated people from other places around the world and spoke ill of every racial group. And so it isn't an accident that I was born into that family, but with true knowledge inside. And I knew that certain things were not right. When my mother took me to these seances or channeling sessions, took me along with one of her boyfriends that she had fornicated with, I believe in a motel room in which I was in the next room. And they were chasing UFOs in the early 90s, late 80s. And I remember a trip to Canada. And if there is anything to being microchipped, if they are really doing these things, I don't know if I encountered that reality or my mother did, but let me just say this. I really hope that nothing like that did happen. But I'm saying that type of activity, I would never recommend anybody do. Go out thinking that it's wise to talk to channelers that say, you know what, we need to arrive at this mountain at this time in Banff, Canada, to meet the aliens. The what? You're serious here. You seriously are going to consciously drive your child multiple states away into another country, into Canada. Pretty place, by the way. Maybe I'll see it someday in another context, not to see the aliens arriving on the mountain in Banff. But I had the creepiest feeling about that. And so if there is something to the idea of alien abduction, I just sure hope my less than aware mother that brought me into this reality didn't attract certain things into my life, but it's possible. But the point is, I faced persecution as a child. I believe that my mother's brothers are going to hell at this point because of their sins, because they haven't repented, and they're still probably engaged in their sin. People need to apologize to the people that they harmed in these end times, because there is no tomorrow. As Apollo Creed says to Rocky Balboa in Rocky 3, as he sits there defeated after being beat by Mr. T, as he sits there ashamed. But he doesn't have the heart. He doesn't believe yet, but he must believe if he is to win this rematch. So people need to realize there is no tomorrow. Your days have run out. You have been put on notice. I was called weeks ago in spirit to talk about the satanic the satanic influence over this region. And I am a good speaker, but I'm a little rough around the edges after taking 3 to 4 years off from speaking. And then allowing this local satanic influence to direct me towards pharmaceuticals, to help me with fear, anxiety, what they call insomnia. These people, even those that claim that they are men and women of God, or even those that claim to know about, quote, meditation, although they don't really know much about it. I think that breathing and deep breathing is important, but I can see how certain forms of meditation can draw in the wrong influences. The point that I'm making is there are many people that speak of meditation. There are many people that speak of God. There are many people that speak of, quote, spirituality, and they know nothing about it. They refuse to identify the demonic influences in society and the specific ways in which, through people's sins and actions and unconscious behaviors, they attract to them and their children certain things. And so through the actions of my parents and my grandparents, even on my mother's side, so we have a KKK member, we have a Freemasonic individual who is a member of the Order of the Golden Star or the Eastern Star. Many, many years ago, the spiritual attacks that followed the abuse from my parents after I had to live with my father. My parents did divorce when I was born, by the way. Not by accident that happened. But I remember slipping into drug addiction in the late 90s, which were really, really dark times. And there was massive divine intervention in my life that led me later into the path of public speaking by getting my own cable access TV show and interviewing people like Alex Jones and many others, at a time in which I felt that they were pure, that they were on the good side, and maybe they were for a time. There's a lot of patriot radio out there that seemed really genuine at the time, concerned about the never-ending wars, concerned about the economy, concerned about the way that we were divided, and now things have changed dramatically. And so a lot of people out there that claim that they're spiritual, they don't identify that people have been co-opted and taken over. In the mental health field, they don't really acknowledge the role social media has played in a lot of this. So from a non-spiritual perspective, by the way, from a non-religious perspective, from what I've experienced, even from a mental health perspective, I can help people better than the way that they're helping people. Either using religion or scripture to help them see, or maybe not going that way. But I think that it's a mistake to remove spirituality from your healing, from your rehabilitation, from your recovery. And so when it comes to working with people that have these attachments and addictions, because often people with certain addictions have demonic attachments, we need to reach them where they're at. Not everybody is ready to have their eyes opened. I was not for many, many years. Even though I was speaking against evil, I was not yet ready within myself to remove those things within myself that were attracting certain things. I want to try to keep this straight and to the point. I want people to know how long I've been on this path. And that the time is near that I believe that a lot of these events will come to pass, and that there is a force of evil that is orchestrating this conflict between the West and the East. We're not just talking about 9/11 and the wars overseas. We've been through that. Most people should know that by now, that we've been manipulated into these conflicts. What I'm discussing now is how they have used the United States for dark purposes by design to harm us. I said this from the beginning. America has been taken over by design. And so there is no one that I know of. Sorry, there is no one that I know of that stands really for the American people, despite their rhetoric. So this guy was talking about China. This guy's talking about this. I was talking about it before he was. So when he was sitting there with his tower in New York, he could have been talking about China in the 2000s while he was making big money. No, he was making lots of money in China through his companies there. He wasn't in a position to say, hey, this is coming with China. They are going to invade one day, likely in a particular time period in such and such. And so no man knows the hour or the day. But there are signs, and using logic and rationale, God can lead people to certain clues as to when there is a likely time period, not an hour, not a day, but a period in time that encompasses several years, in fact. We are in those days now. And while people are taught to fear the sun, the solar flares, what would happen if the sun impacted our grid and disrupted it dramatically? The truth is, there may come a time, I've spoken about this also, for over 15 years, where people are on their knees praying for divine intervention, for God to intervene in the affairs of man. And so you, me, others, we may one day be doing just that as we see the rise of AI and robotics, as robots are now sent out to fight wars. But in reality, this isn't really about promoting democracy or a constitution or a republic or whatever they're claiming they're doing. They're really bringing about this technological system to oppress mankind, but they won't oppress all of mankind at first. Mark my words. I will tell you now what they will do. They will make it very popular, as they're doing right now with ChatGPT and the various apps. And while some of these apps can be used for good, I would caution people from just jumping into all the random apps without really knowing what you're dealing with. I would avoid Replica. I would avoid ChatGPT for certain reasons. And I truly believe that true human thought and consciousness is faster than the machine. And that the technologies that we're working with right now are actually, in fact, quite inferior to what is actually out there. And the truly advanced technology that is out there is demonic in nature and is being used to control mankind. Let me tell you what I told one of the biggest radio shows in the world, Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. It's like they know exactly how to push our buttons when the solar flares and the eclipses and the moon cycles, when certain things come to pass. Mankind has a certain amount of energy, prana or chi energy from the earth, from this reality, as the earth interacts with the sun and the moon and other celestial forces. This is not astrology. This is just how it is. Astrology and the specific study of it and the opinions of those in astrology is light years away from what I am saying. You know, and for years I scratched my head going, why don't the astrologers stop talking about the planets, which may have this alien influence, Saturn, Jupiter, so on and so forth? Why not just talk about the sun? And, I'm going to be honest with you. There is this coincidence that we have that needs to be discussed out in the open without being shamed. There happens to be a coincidence here of people talking about the return of one son, spelled S-O-N. Well, there's also simultaneously the return of another son, the return of the son, S-U-N. I don't know really what all this is about, but I'm bringing this to your attention. And I don't think in my heart, that this is something to be ignored or discarded. In the event of a situation in which there is no power, our entire lives are going to change overnight. Not just where our food comes from and if we eat or not. People are going to be forced to talk to each other again without technology. And maybe in some places in the U.S., there may be peace amongst us in these times, even if there is war. What we want to do during these times is pray to God and repent for our sins. We need to pray to be placed in the right place, not with the intent of surviving forever, for we will not live forever in the flesh, but to be at his service. Was I truly at my best, living 4 years on 1 acre in the woods in Pagosa Springs, Colorado, a place that I felt God drew me to, even connected me with my horrible credit at 518, mind you. God intervened and set me up with a real estate agent who set me up with a plan. $250 a month. And the land is mine. But there was details that were missing. It was cursed land, stolen land, with evil possessed people in the woods, with people running churches that would reject me and ignore my warnings and act like I wasn't really welcome. And not only there, but at all the places in which I tried to work. I'll tell my full story another time, but these cliff notes need to be shared. Oh yeah. So I told the truth about China. I've interviewed people that have had prophetic dreams, and I think that, when it comes to most divination and channeling, the vast majority of it is false and bunk. But there are times where we may be united with people that are speaking the truth. And they may not be popular. This person I found at random. I was guided to him. On a night that I stayed up late in 2006 or 7, looking at various prophetic dreams of what is to come from China. And so there's many Christians that allegedly have received these dreams, these visions, these prophecies, these downloads. And I have felt a calling to bring people's attention to this. And what is happening now is a bastardization of that ability within us to access the truth, with the fake news, with the algorithmic manipulation, with the takeover of the mind of the man known as Alex Jones, and the takeover of the modern American conspiracy theory movement. And again, steering people in the direction of even worshiping alien figures. Did you know this is taking place in the American conspiracy movement? Did you know this is taking place? Are you warning people about this? Are we going out and preaching to the people that are receiving this disinformation that they are being lied to? I will tell you that when you go out and do such things, if you go without God, and some would say if you go without Jesus, there will be ramifications for your actions. Oh yeah. So I've exposed Google and YouTube and the far-right radicalization that they have promoted. And I'm telling you now, I cannot rub elbows with so-called men of God if they do not understand that the algorithm is manipulating both the far left and the far right, and that foreign nations such as China and Russia are also manipulating social media to cause unrest in America. See, I expect that true men of God have the God-given intelligence, because God gave us a brain for a reason. And that brain is not meant to just praise ourselves in our own churches and our own platforms. It is to make it hard for people to go to hell, as I heard one person said recently. And then I watched his other videos. I never sit there and watch multiple pastors from local churches because I'm not drawn to it. But I know recently that I was drawn to visit 5 churches. 5 is also symbolic in the Bible. Someone said, hey, because I called many prayer hotlines in the last month. I wouldn't really, in truth, say I'm a new Christian. I would say that probably have been my whole life, but really just didn't know it. I was already serving. I was already serving God and talking of things to come, but I never claimed to be Jesus, never claimed to have all this information. In fact, I claimed to have a lot of faults. In fact, many times on the air, in many podcasts, I shared the story of my child abuse, the early life drug addiction, how I went to jail, how I was humiliated in jail, having to strip naked, how all these things were really purging me of those negative things within me that had to change. But there was a reason I faced those things, and there's a reason the devil sent in certain people into my life to introduce me to the needle. Now, that was not an accident, because I was a good boy. I didn't deserve that. I had light in me even then. I cared about people. But because I was traumatized from my childhood, from my father, when he said, I brought you in this world, I can take you out. You know, it's truly amazing that a man from another culture who came here and did earn a master's degree, okay, and he is highly intelligent, and he does speak 5 or 6 languages, and he has worked for the military. It's amazing how he's, in a way, absorbed the worst of his culture and our culture. Maybe there are some beautiful things that he has absorbed. We both like Pink Floyd. We both like Stevie Nicks. We both like certain, things, but that's not enough for my dad and I to have a unity or a bond. Because he's always had a dark side. So I've had to walk this walk in a time in which I feel like, I'd like to honor my parents and know them and know the light within me and the truth within me, but they reject to acknowledge that. They refuse to acknowledge that. When I was a child, and I was told by my mother this a few years ago while I was on medication, so it wasn't a good time, but an uncle bared false witness against me for no reason whatsoever. Again, just to remind you, I'm of mixed race heritage. My mother married briefly a Muslim person who's not a stereotypical Muslim. Like I said, he really integrated well into the society. But he had some serious anger and problems and abuse issues, which affected both of us. So we were living on 40 acres in the early 80s in Aurora, Oregon, on Grandpa's farmland. And the drug activities of my brother's brothers, I do believe, brought demons. There was pornography that I found around the property. I even believe that maybe Grandpa's money might be cursed. I read also from a Christian perspective that receiving inheritance from money that is not clean, that might be blood money, may even bring demonic attachments. And this was written from a biblical perspective. So again, a lot of the things that have influenced me are Christian blogs and Christian ideas that in many cases other Christians, even some pastors, have never once in their life ever heard of. And so when I speak of certain things, a wide number of things, I could come across as mentally ill or crazy, not just to the mental health people that don't recognize Jesus or demonic attacks, but to pastors that act like we don't know that we're on the edge of something, that want to act like everything's okay and that everything's going to be restored in America through some sort of political process. And these are people that are preaching false doctrines. I will tell you now, when you go into a parking lot of a church, look at the bumper stickers. If you see an overabundance of political ideologies that are not in accordance in truth with God's law, even though they will say they are, but what is the truth? Can you really run around sinning, having sex with porn stars, promoting that people kill people based on their political ideology? Where in the Bible does it say that you can do these things? I can't find it. So until somebody can show me those things are in the Bible, I'm going to realize that the biggest barrier to today's people receiving the teachings of Jesus Christ are people that falsely call themselves Christian. Do these people even want to be Christian? No, what people want in many cases is community. They want to have a barbecue. They want to be amongst like minds, just like many Muslims, as there are many Muslims that are not following their own doctrine, which is important for far-right people to know. There's plenty of people out there that are not even close to Sharia law or promoting those things. So the hysteria that we've been fed is asinine. There's plenty of people that have joined the religion of Islam that are not really serving God, they're serving themselves. They're just using their religion to rub elbows with people that are of the same religion for business practices or others. And they've basically been conditioned that the only way to get to heaven is to click your heels 3 times together and say, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. Thank you, God. Praise you, God. There's no place like home. I really don't think that God just wants us to worship him. He wants us to work to make the world a better place and gave us a guide, and in some cases, multiple guides. And the world repeatedly crucifies those individuals. I don't think that they just sent Jesus, by the way. And I think that it will continue to manifest in our reality where people speak of holy things that are born in human form, that came down here for a purpose. I don't think that it's just one. There may be, like in my shoes, in the alternative media, I am the only one of a certain ethnic bloodline or combination of bloodlines that you normally don't see. Oh, there's plenty of part Native American, part white. There's plenty of part white, part black. There's plenty of part white, part Latino. As far as me, very uncommon. So I think that I am accessing this dormant DNA, if in fact reincarnation may not exist. And so I'm accessing perhaps spiritual teachings from ancestry. This was told to me by a Christian. I didn't believe it at the time in 2018 in Pagosa Springs when he had dinner at the Mexican restaurant on my birthday. And they rejected me for thinking that life beyond this was possible. I feel like that was unwarranted, given my spiritual teachings and my good side. That just a few viewpoints like that should not excommunicate me, but they did at least plant the seed that information that we think could come from past lives could be our advanced soul sent by God accessing dormant DNA. We often hear about how we don't use a full percentage of our brains. Are we all only using a certain percentage of our brains? Or is there sometimes a glitch in this reality or matrix or simulation created by God? And so what's been happening with me lately has been a transformation. I've been in transition. I'm right now light years away from where I was a few weeks ago. I've quit so many things that most people don't quit in a lifetime. I've walked away from strip clubs, pornography, pharmaceutical drugs. For right now, no cannabis. There are ways in which I perceive it's benefited me. For right now, there's no cannabis. And for right now, there's no Delta 8. That's a synthetic cannabinoid that they sell all around this place. They say, oh, the marijuana is bad when God made the plant, and it has medicinal benefits, in my opinion, but try telling that to the state. They want to pump people full of drugs that harm people's liver. Many people out there that think some of these things are sins need to understand and catch up with technology that what is really sinful, in my opinion, is pumping people up full of pharmaceuticals that can cause psychosis. Now, I'm not talking about myself. I knew to get off of it. I'm talking about the violence in society. How many of these people are on these drugs? This conversation has been had for a long time. And the people dishing out these drugs, even if they say that they're religious, Muslim, Christian, New Age, Voodoo, Caribbean, like seriously, like the doctors are from all over the world here. And they hardly speak a word of English. And if you speak clear English to them and assert yourself, they will resent you for it. So again, I'm not just pointing the finger at them. I'm pointing the finger at and raising the alarm at all these mainstream doctors. White, black, ethnic, doesn't matter. They're not serving God by and large. And many of us were duped during the COVID pandemic in ways most of us should know by now. I will say this, though. As I said, they infiltrated the conspiracy movement. I talked with a Christian for an hour and a half in Pagosa at a church, and we talked about this, and she told me what God showed her. Because I am talking with many people that do believe that they are being led by God, and I have been called a prophet. I'm not telling you these things to be boosted up. I'm telling you that this came out of the blue the other day from Christians in this community, and I did not expect that. And they claim that they were told that from God. When I told them of certain things coming to pass, which we have not even gotten to. But I'm telling you, the end game with regards to China is human trafficking, is white slavery. And this is why I believe Okay, and I'm not channeling. I'm not going to give me the answers, oh Shiva, oh Gaga. And I definitely don't want to use any religious names in blasphemy, but I'm saying that I'm not attempting to channel per se. With rationale and logic and just being intelligent is what I'm getting at. An intelligent person should be able to figure things out without channeling. And God should be able to give them the spirit of discernment. And so when I am on Facebook and I see fake news, say headlines like, everybody's going to be microchipped by the year 2016. Well, right now, you and I both know that's false, don't we? But did the people on Facebook know that was false? No, they didn't. And there were certain demographics, okay, that were spreading that more than other demographics. I'll just say it right now. A lot of women fall for a lot of this stuff, and I'm not a misogynist. But there's ways in which they do, both men and women and various ethnicities, in specific ways through this algorithm. And again, did I tell you that the algorithm is of the devil? I hope this is being made clear. Our world right now is being led by algorithms and AI, and the people don't even know it yet. So anyway, in the conspiracy movement, they put out things like, you're going to die if you got vaccinated. And that puts in the spirit of fear and even death in a person. And it can even inject certain thoughts that God won't help you, or that God has left you. You're going to die of the vaccine. Just because the vaccines may be unneeded, and some of them, taken on excess of them, may be unhealthy. And I don't really promote the system of vaccines, don't really trust it. I don't really believe that everybody is dying from the vaccine. And I think that it has been shown now that Alex Jones and David Icke, the channeler, the theosophical individual, right? Because if people want to support the president, they need to know the man or the men that brought him to power. It's only common sense. It's only common sense, guys. It's only common sense. So the people must know the true spirit of Alex Jones and the people around him, like David Icke, who also said that 5G causes the coronavirus. That's not true either. 5G is not good for our health, but did not cause the coronavirus. That's ridiculous. But I remember watching that woman tell me on my Patreon page when I still had it up, when I still made podcasts, that was the truth. And so when I denied that was the truth, she threw me away like that. Oh, was I surprised? And I felt dirty. I felt like, and here she was baiting me into fornication. You want to move in with me? You want to escape where you're at and come into my place? And it's like, wow, no, I don't. Beware of those moments where you're lonely and you have no friends and people pop up like a jack in the box and they're like, how you doing, buddy? I got some fresh bread for you. Here, I got a fresh bowl of marijuana. Want to smoke some? As they hand it over to you. First of all, if you're going to do it in a clean, sacred way with the intention of serving God. Not all human beings have the genetic ability to serve God with that substance. My experience has been different, okay? Other genetics, they don't seem to be able to tap in to the higher realms, however, on it. They end up going unconscious, and many of them develop demonic attachments. So even though it does help me to a certain degree, I am abstaining from it for my own protection at this time because I'm taking no chances. I have a number right now where I can call and get what I think will make me feel better. It came to me last week. Is that of God or of the devil? I don't know the individual, and I don't know the quality of it or the energetic construct of the person. But I will tell you this. When you just buy weed, street weed, from unclean people, or people involved in gangsterism or harming others or crime against others, when you share pot with people and you smoke out of their pipe, their spirits, their demons can come into you in the same way that when you have sexual intercourse with unclean human beings, their demons can also come into you. And here's why that is dangerous for men of God to lay down with the filth. even though we are, like Jesus, meant to minister to the sinful, to the prostitutes, to the gangsters, right? Just as he did it then, we need to do it now in our modern world of gangsterism, violence, and the sex trade. If one's going to do that, one has to walk with God. And they need to be willing to remove those things about them that are allowing the devil to come back at them and retaliate. But I'm not here to say that you can remove those things and the devil will stop advancing. So to really serve the Lord in this modern day and age is a situation in which one must be very brave and in their power. And you don't want to be acting recklessly, getting yourself into dangerous situations, but one must overcome the fear of death because that is ultimately being used to manipulate us. And so through the fear of death and through the fear of starvation, through the occupation that's coming, China may offer us a microchip. As someone said in the interview with him, they may load it with $100,000 and give the American people a new economic system. Now, in recent years, I've seen articles about China giving free money to its people in a digital currency scheme. Why is this sounding familiar? Why is this headline about China with its digital currency giving free money sounding like a stepping stone to what the individual that I spoke of in 2007 said about the microchip being loaded with 100 grand? Is it really all that far-fetched? So, a top Air Force general has said we may be at war with China over Taiwan by 2024, and some have said that that can lead to attacks on the American homeland. I've been personally warning about 2025 for over 10 years. I don't know exactly when I first started to talk about it, but I remember with Google Alerts on Gmail, I added 2025 to my search terms to be aware of all things 2025. So I remember seeing articles regarding the RAND Corporation preparing with war with China by 2025. I talked with Joel Skousen about the potential of war between the West and China and Russia by 2025, and I uploaded it naively to disclose.tv, thinking that I could trust conspiracy folks. It's a far-right German fake conspiracy trash news website. That's what disclose.tv is. So is beforeitsnews.com. It's important that Christians know that they are seeking to manipulate Christians through these websites. And so there has to be a movement, if you will, underground mainstream that exposes these things. And you can even say, kicks the devil out of the church. The devil must be expelled from the church. And what's this I'm seeing from the Pope about LGBT? I'm not really hardcore opinionated on the homosexual topic, but I don't go out of my way to put their issues above the issues of everybody else. And I think the issue of racism of various kinds to all people is a greater issue than what is called gay rights. And so here we see the various Unitarian churches and other churches. I'm not here to slander, and I don't want God to be angry with me. So I think before I speak now, I don't just shout out certain names. I shout out a few. Those names you all should know. But later on, there are what I consider to be these top dogs in the New Age movement that are all promoting these satanic Anunnaki doctrines, claiming to channeling these supposed alien spirits that they think are our saviors, are our helpers, but they're not at all. And I knew inside, as I said, that the opinions of my mother were false in my childhood. This talk of the ascension, this talk of the idea of our world being remodeled, if you will, by these forces, by these alien forces, and the good humans who are smart enough to get new agey and stuff, they're going to be taken above the spacecraft. Yeah, buddy. And their DNA is going to get upgraded. Yeah. And the whole world is just going to be this amazing, amazing, loving place. While the idea of the world becoming an amazing place is attractive, and I would love to be here for that, to have a family, to have children, have the space to have the children, and to homestead and to live off the earth and to live in harmony without oppressive technologies. We're a long, long ways away from that. Although it's possible, as I said, that we could still face some interruptions to the grid, but leading me to my next point, my next warning to you, and then I'm going to stop at 1 hour to preserve my energy. But I'm a man that can speak for 5 hours, 6 hours straight. When the grid goes down, keep in mind, this may not be of God. The sun may not be entirely of God. I am of the opinion that people come under demonic oppression and demonic attacks, and there is also an increase in UFO sightings or alleged UFO videos going in and out of the sun. This has been increasing for years. I think a lot of that info is questionable, but there's something about this idea that does ring true for me. The sun is not just a pure energy source. It provides life for all things, even those things that parasite and hunt mankind. You see what I'm saying? So when the sun is at its most active, they know how the human body responds with certain emotions, especially some of those human souls that are corrupted by demons. Instead of becoming maybe more spiritual or thoughtful and energetic, they become angry, wrathful. I think that wrath, when it's done in the proper way, not violence, but when you speak in a way to wake someone up from their sinful nature, sometimes we must speak with a strong voice, verbally. But I do not believe it is our path physically to harm them or to force them to bend to our understanding. The other thing that's coming to me from Spirit is that Christian men need to learn how to fight with their hands if they don't, so they can avoid the sin of murder. There are far too many modern Christians that cannot box or defend themselves that will might as well just put a bullet in someone. And that idea to me is a man that doesn't own a gun due to mistakes he's made in his youth. But maybe God never wanted me to engage in the sin of murder. And maybe it's better that I be struck down and return to where I'm from than engage in those things. And there's many ways in which people are duped into thinking that they have to harm others or kill others to keep themselves safe. And there's many ways in which there's blasphemy going on levels that I don't even know you're ready for, right? But it's one thing to say that Jesus died for our sins or freedom. People need to see how they're also putting others that allegedly are believed to have died for such when these people are not at the same level of Jesus. And there are many sins being committed by these forces all across the world. It's in the news. I can sit down, someone says, I challenge you, prove it to me. How much time you got, buddy? And will you read the articles that I print out? I almost feel like I need to be walking into churches going, do you repent of the sin of murder? Yes, we do. Okay, explain this to me. And then hand them a folder and ask them to open it. 75, 80% of the time, if I were to do that with certain articles, they'll hand that back to me and say, get out. Get out. I'm sorry, I asked if you were against the sin of murder. Get out. We don't want you here. Take your notebook. Take your piece of paper. We don't want you and your hateful thoughts. I don't hate you. I'm saying I think these things are sins. Look, this article said they raped these people. Look, this article said they tortured these people. And these people over here, there are godly, said, even though we're at war, we think that some of these actions are immoral. And I'm asking you, do you endorse that? And they're like, and I'm telling you, regular old people are like that. Like regular people, not regular old people. Regular young people, regular middle-aged people, my mother, my father, like my parents. They're not disgusted at the things that have happened in the last 20 years and how the hateful thoughts have impacted my life, my career opportunities, getting kicked out of homes, becoming homeless. Yes, my friend or friends, I have a story to tell. I want people to know the way that I lived, what I spoke of, and how the devil came against me before I leave this earth. So when I'm gone, I want people to cross-examine the things that I talked about, because you can't trust the space program that Elon Musk is a part of and what he's bringing people towards. It's not just his microchip, his Neuralink. Okay, he's been promising false salvation from AI and the earth realms in his idea of going off planet. You think that he's going to be open to various earth bloodlines, including ancient earth bloodlines? Or do you think it's going to be much more controlled? And see, this is something also that Christians need to know. Why do you think some of these conflicts are taking place in Christian lands, where Christian things have happened in the past, like Syria? There's also many, many things that have happened in the past in Afghanistan, in Iraq, before Islam, of a spiritual nature in these regions. These are holy places. These are holy lands. They have an ancient history before the rise of certain religions. And so these are special places. And so it's not an accident that the powers that be are even bombing some of these places. Have you ever heard of the shock and awe campaign of 2003? Have you ever heard of the entity known as Shekinah? Do you understand that when CNN says shock and awe, that they're summoning a demonic entity as they bomb these lands? Maybe even the lands of the fallen angels from the time of Genesis. Now we live in the day and age of the History Channel with their alien history shows, in which many people have been brought to the idea that the aliens are our lords and saviors, our creators. That's right. They would never, ever, ever reveal themselves on mainstream TV. Let me make that straight. We're not at that level of spiritual awakening. Sure, there are references to the fallen angels, the Nephilim, the demons. But again, the people at the tip top of these movements are leading people astray. For example, I'm not mentioning names, but there are a list of names that are in my head that are either people that I've known or people that I've heard of over and over and over again that are promoting a variety of false prophecies and doctrines. There's one individual that claims that we are being assisted by blue avian bird alien beings. Now, this is how this mind control manifests. I'm going to give you an example. Several months ago, I saw a post in a mental health Facebook group as I was coming off of, with God's help, various pharmaceuticals. And so it was a self-help group for people waking up that that's not the way to healing ourselves from the trauma that comes from this world. So I went to that particular YouTube show that he was streaming and joined it, which I normally don't do, used a pen name, called myself Sam in that case. And I'm learning now, don't use your given birth name to people that you have not established friendships with in person. Forget this internet phone call nonsense. Friendships are established in person or from deep, ongoing contact with each other. You don't give strangers all your jewels and all the keys to your information, because my key is information. My information is key. Because people can use that against someone when the devil gets in their head and starts whispering to them, oh, that's a bad person. They don't like our system. They don't like our Lord. They don't like that. So there's many, many, many Christians out there that sometimes are still influenced by these forces, that are led away from good people and still led in the direction of people that deceive them, even though they think they have taken in Jesus into their heart. They have failed to identify the enemy when it comes, when it speaks to them with a forked tongue. I feel a calling to talk about how some of these people in the New Age movement, as I'm discussing, I'm just going to throw out a few names. James Gillen from Trout Lake, Washington. These are public figures that have their own platforms. So this isn't like a attacking. This is drawing awareness to very popular, very resourceful, wealthy in some cases, individuals that are leading many, many astray. James Gillen teaches people to connect with the alien beings at his ranch in Washington State. And so people come up there in droves. I've been up there 5 to 10 times. There's reasons why I don't like the man. He is a fornicator. He does lust after the women, and this has been spoken of on the internet, the true nature of him. And so he presents himself to be an ascended master. And through what I thought was positive synchronicity in 2007, I felt led in his direction at a New Age bookstore, finding a calling to look behind a shelf, looking at his book. And then he was on the radio the same night on Coast to Coast AM. I saw it as a sign. What a fool I was. Sure, there were signs that were positive at that time, but not all signs we should follow. We should use a little discernment. We should put some people to the test. We should see if some of these people are conscious enough, intelligent enough. If they claim to be intuitive, let's put them to the test. Are they aware of some of these things that are taking place on the earth? It doesn't always have to be biblical. Are they aware of some of the physical things that are happening in the news? Or are they in complete ignorance of world affairs while acting like, they have information? So I feel that it's unwise for spiritual people to visit lands like that, where there is some very risky behavior going on. There I criticized my mother for chasing the UFOs in Canada and taking me along, and I accept the fact that I shouldn't be going to his land in the 2000s to maybe see something in the skies. If something's going to be revealed to us, it will be revealed to us. And there are some times in which I've seen unusual things in the sky. My car broke down in Costilla County, Colorado, in the desert, in a region where there are no lights for miles and miles and miles. It's just pure, raw, off-grid land with no signs whatsoever. So if your car breaks down, if you've got no cell phone, you are screwed. And it was winter. And my alternator belt broke on my 1990 Honda that I bought in Dallas, Texas, that I drove into Costilla County. I was screwed that night. And what did I have on me? Nothing but a wind-up flashlight that I had to keep winding in order to see the light. I look up, and a star falls from the sky. Maybe it was a UFO, or maybe it was some spirit, maybe it was something. And this was a region in which there was an abundance of UFO sightings, but it could have been angelic. I don't know. Maybe it was demonic, and they caused my car to have a problem. I don't know. But what I do know is this. I felt safe and protected. I was led. I would be scared to do this today. I was led to knock on a door for help because I couldn't find my way back. I was 10 miles from home, from the yurt in which I had permission to stay in, which of course had no toilet, had no running water. I was living like an ancient, living in the wilderness, living in the desert, without necessarily I could have been writing a book. I did write a book during that period. I did. But I could have wrote much, much more. But I made many videos. What I'm saying is it's very important that we make the effort to write and not just make videos and make videos and make videos and podcasts. That we have to write so that people understand in the future when all this is wiped away what happened here. Only some things will be left. The Bible will be valuable, but also people of this day and age with their stories to tell and their understandings and their insights, some of these also too must be preserved for the coming generation because we owe it to them. We are connected to the future generation and the past generation. And there is nothing and no one that is going to sever that. So the person that I speak of with the UFO ranch is connected with another woman named Ramtha, who has a cult also in Washington State, there's a lot of questionable things about Ramtha, and in some cases, that situation's worse than with James Gillen. And so this Ramtha woman has endorsed recent presidential candidates or people that have been in office, has endorsed Putin, has attacked certain ethnic groups. None of these things are accordance with Bible or God. whatsoever. But many people are pulled into it. They're pulled in by the allure of the idea that a supposed ascended master is occupying the body of a woman, as is the case with JZ Knight, also known as Ramtha. It's an older woman that supposedly is an ancient Atlantean being. If it supposedly is a positive ancient Atlantean being, why aren't we getting accurate knowledge about our reality? Or from the other channelers, and there are many, 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 many of them. And how many of them predicted 9/11? How many of them predicted the things that are coming now? How many of them have warned of China? Zero, zilch, nada, none. But all of these folks and more, and I can just start dropping names, David Wilcock, Corey Wood, Kerry Cassidy, like there are so many spokes to the conspiracy theory, alt-right, New Age world. Do you hear me? And it is not of the Lord, and it is not Christian. How many of you know who Michael Flynn is? Okay, how many of you know that Michael Flynn, before a Christian audience, called forth the sevenfold ray? How many of you know where the sevenfold ray comes from? It comes from theosophy, spiritism, spiritualism. Alice Bailey. Now, did you know that Alice Bailey, a channeler that lived about 100 years ago, and this is a student, I believe, of Blavatsky, I believe that she warned that 2025 was the time of the hierarchy, the spiritual hierarchy revealing itself. There's a couple quotes from her. And from the New Age perspective, this is of God. This is angelic. We're going to be enlightened in 2025. From another perspective, nope, enlightenment is not here yet. Sorry. What a joke that is. We're a far, far way or direction, distance from global enlightenment. Instead, it is more likely that we're going to see mass possession in the coming years. And as men of God, we need to warn our fellow brother and sister that the demonic activity going on is influencing many of the people around us. There was a couple stories of murder recently in Dallas, and I was not surprised by these. And so these were occurring around the time of the supermoon, which does affect human behavior. And awareness of that is not divination or astrology. It is a scientific mind that understands cause and effect, that is educated. And so there were a spat of murders, bloody murders, Friday night last week. Did you hear? And then on Monday, which is yesterday, I was horrified as I sat on Military Drive, getting a burger across from the Walmart over there, and I looked up at the TV, and what did I see? People found with their hands tied behind their back. One of them shot. The other one injured. And it's like we're seeing an increase. And so we can say, well, they brought this on themselves. They were in South Dallas. They're probably drug addicts. Is this really what we've come to? Is this really who we are now? Oh, yeah, it's just blood. Yeah, that's just what they do. Yeah. This is not acceptable. A society decaying at this rate, where people are killing each other at an alarming rate, is not normal. And everybody should remember that. We should never, ever accept this. But people in today's day and age that are already traumatized, they don't want to be further traumatized. And so they will look at things from a certain perspective in which this is why this happened. My mother, when she had the channeling boyfriend back in the day, when I got assaulted by the black youths at that park, I remember them saying that it was my karma. Really now, my karma. A New Age term. I do believe in karma, however, and like the idea that sins following someone and there being repercussions for that, that is karma. But there are other New Age interpretations of karma that are bunk. It's easy for them to look at people that are victimized by the devil of this world and say, that is their karma, and look away. No, God did not say you can do that. We should care for people. We should care for one another. What I feel in my heart God wants is for us to show people the way. teach people what they need to be taught, expose those things that need to be exposed. That's our job. We're not meant to just hang out and eat Big Macs and eat at Taco Bell and just do our thing on Sunday like most people do and go around living sinful lives while, of course, worshiping guns. Okay, it's okay for you to have a gun, right? But this gun worship thing as the Lord and Savior of an individual, that, no, isn't in accordance. And where are the Christians out there then that do believe in the Second Amendment, caring about the people that have had their Second Amendment taken from them? How can I be comfortable with guns and guns and guns and guns and guns and guns and guns, knowing what the devil is programming people with and not having a gun myself? I would have to have the faith in God to be speaking of the things that I'm speaking of. No, you do not speak of these things like this, exposing the devil's kingdom, unless you're serving God. You have to serve God. But there are many people that claim that they are serving God, that not one day in their lives to their flock at their churches have they actually exposed or addressed Satan's kingdom in a literal sense. Figuratively, yes. Speaking of it, yes. Name dropping, yes, and then pointing the fingers at this group or that political party or this race of people or this country of origin. That's what we've got going on right now, folks. When people talk about Satan's kingdom, they're not really talking about Satan's kingdom. You see what I'm saying? So in that sense, they're serving Satan by deflecting. We've now reached the 1:11:33 on the clock, 1 minute and 11 minutes. We are now going to bring this to a close, and in the future, we will talk even more about other examples of hypocrisy within the church. And understanding this in truth brings people closer to the true Christ, as opposed to what could be called a thought form.